Right now, the world of artificial intelligence, it feels less like a series of tech updates and more like a grand seafaring adventure. Seriously, it's like we've all set out on a quest for legendary treasure across a vast uncharted ocean. And in this explainer, we're going to grab a map and chart this new grand line of AI together. So, our story really kicks off in November 2022. The release of ChatGPT, it wasn't just an update. It was like a massive cannon blast that signaled the dawn of a new era. This wasn't just another program, no. This was a breakthrough that showed the entire world that generative AI could create amazing, human-like stuff on demand, and it just completely captured everyone's imagination. And hey, the proof is right there in the numbers. In just 2 months, ChatGPT hit 100 million users. That made it the fastest-growing consumer app in history. We're not talking about a little ripple here. This was a tidal wave that kicked off the massive AI boom that we're all living through today. And that tidal wave, it's basically turned the entire world of technology into this vast, uncharted grand line. It's a sea that is just brimming with incredible opportunities, but you gotta know, it's also filled with some pretty formidable dangers. It's a whole new map, and believe me, everyone is racing to explore it. So what's the treasure that has everyone so excited? How about this for a number? Generative AI is projected to add up to $4.4 trillion to the global economy. And that's not a one-time thing, that's annually. Now that is the prize at the end of this quest, and it's exactly why every major player is hoisting their sails. Now, of course, every great sea has its rulers, and in the AI Grand Line, we call these the emperors of AI. We're talking about a handful of incredibly powerful companies with foundational models so advanced they're literally shaping the currents of this new world. And right at the heart of their big rivalry is this fundamental clash of philosophies. It really boils down to two sides. On one side, you have closed source models. They give you control, they're reliable, you get dedicated support. But on the other side, you've got open source models, which are all about transparency, customization, and the freedom to collaborate. This is really the central conflict of our whole story. Okay, so let's meet the main powers on this sea. Each one has its own philosophy and its own signature weapon. You've got OpenAI, of course, pushing the absolute boundaries with its GPT and O series. You've got Google DeepMind, aiming for this deep, seamless integration with its Gemini family. Anthropic is kind of like the ethical admirals with their super safety-focused Claude models. And then you've got Meta, who's championing the open sea with its Llama series. But, being an empire isn't all smooth sailing. These giants face something called the alignment tax. So think of it this way. The more safety guardrails you build into an AI, the more you can accidentally nerf its power. Like, you might ask it to write a thrilling adventure story, but its safety filters get in the way of any real conflict, and you just end up with a boring story. And then there's the whole black box problem. Since the code is secret, it's almost impossible for anyone on the outside to really check it for hidden flaws. And all that tension puts Meta at this absolutely fascinating crossroads. I mean, they built a massive following by championing open source with their Llama models, but now they're reportedly facing some serious internal pressure to close things off, just so they can compete on raw power with rivals like OpenAI. It's a huge gamble, pitting their entire identity against what the market is demanding. But wait, the emperors aren't the only ships on this sea. Not by a long shot. A whole new generation of challengers, we'll call them the Supernovas, is rising up. And they're rising fast. These are disruptive, open-source projects from all over the world, and they are completely changing the rules of the game. So what's their biggest weapon? It's all about cost-effectiveness. Challengers like China's DeepSeek have released models that are nearly as powerful as the top closed-source ones, but for about 5% of the cost. Let that sink in. This isn't just competition anymore. This is the complete commoditization of powerful AI, and it's forcing the entire market to react. This whole disruption is being fueled by what you could almost call a global pirate alliance. You've got these central hubs like Hugging Face, which hosts almost 1 million models that anyone can use and improve. And then you have these agile crews, like Francis's Mistral AI, releasing small, super efficient models that just punch way above their weight, often even outperforming the giants. So, with all these titans and supernovas clashing, you might be asking, okay, where do I fit into all this? Well, you're not just a bystander watching from the shore. You are a potential captain of innovation. And to succeed, you're going to need to assemble your own agile and powerful crew. And every good captain needs a crew. Think of it like this. You're going to need a navigator. That's a data expert who can make sense of all the information you feed the AI. You need a shipwright, an engineer who can build and scale the tech. A doctor, someone to spot and fix problems like bias, making sure your creation is fair for everyone. An archaeologist, your subject matter expert who brings that deep, contextual knowledge. And a cook, the person who connects your project to the whole ecosystem. Every single one of these roles is vital for a successful journey. All right, so let's look out at the horizon, because believe me, the seas are about to get even more interesting. The future of this AI Grand Line is going to be shaped by three huge forces: shifting government regulations, intense geopolitical rivalries, and maybe the single greatest technical challenge of them all, alignment. So first up, you've got the world government's decree, or, in our world, actual global regulation. Governments are scrambling to catch up. We've gone from early principles back in 2019 to legally binding rules like the EU AI Act today. There's a huge global push underway to build some guardrails for this incredibly powerful technology. Second, there's geopolitics. The rivalry between the US and China could really create a digital Cold War, splitting the world into two totally separate tech ecosystems. Or it could push nations toward a global alliance, one focused on shared safety standards to prevent the worst from happening. The path we take, honestly, it's still really uncertain. But maybe the ultimate challenge, the final boss of this whole quest, is the alignment problem. How do we make sure these incredibly powerful systems operate not just according to their instructions, but in line with our deepest human values? It's the difference between an AI that just follows orders and one that truly understands our intent, our ethics, and our hopes for the future. Which, of course, brings us right back to you. In this great AI pirate era, you are the captain. You've got to navigate the clash between open and closed, assemble your crew, and understand the changing tides of regulation and rivalry. The future isn't written yet. So the big question is, how will you chart your course?